There we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Friend Leigh Show. I am your host and friend, Leigh. Tonight is not your usual night of finding me going live, but I've had quite the week and I kept postponing, so I apologize for any inconvenience. I'm really hoping that a few of you guys are going to be able to show up live because that's always my favorite part of the show. But if not, that'll just mean it'll be a little bit of a shorter episode tonight, and that is okay. So as always, I want to kind of just start with a few things. I want to start with the disclaimer that I am not a healthcare professional. So anything that you learn from this show, it really is for education and entertainment purposes. If you hear anything that you're like, that's me, or I wonder, please talk to a healthcare professional, whether that's your doctor or your therapist, and see how it can help you and how you can integrate it into your own life. And I want you just to know the way that we do the show, because it is live every week. Normally, we record live on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, or whatever the equivalent is for you. And I liken it to inviting you over to my home, that we're in my living room. Maybe you brought a friend. I probably brought some other friends and we're having a conversation. And every month we have like a theme on the show. So the theme that we're going to be doing this month for December. So if you're watching this in the replay, that's okay. It may not be December. But if you're watching it live, then this month we are going to be talking about bullying. So a lot of the time when we think of bullying, we think of bullying in schools, which is really a big problem right now. But really, bullying happens even in adulthood, unfortunately. So we're going to be talking about the bullying epidemic. And then as always, each week we focus on one of the pillars within the happy framework. So the first week of the month, we always focus on two because they're very personal and intertwined, and that is health and then affection for ourselves. So today we're going to be talking about building resilience through health and self-affection, just to be able to combat the bullying that is inevitably going to happen. I wish it was not the case. I wish that we lived in a world that people were just kind. I think we're moving in the right direction. I hope we're moving in the right direction. The more with social media, the more that people are curating social media and realizing that it can be powerful if we use it properly. But the problem is that a lot of the time we don't use it properly. We kind of just use it and let whatever the algorithm is going to show us, we absorb that, and that's not healthy. And so the bullying problem really stems, I think it's always been there. Like I was a kid before we had social media, before we had the internet, and there was bullying in the schools. People hurt people. That's as simple as we can make it. Hurt people. Okay. Once we understand that, then it's like, okay, there's a lot of hurt people in this world. And it's this cycle that unfortunately, it's very difficult to get out of. Those hurt people need to really do the inner work and realize that they are loved, even if they've never felt loved. They need to realize that they do have support, even if they feel like they don't have support. But until that whole thing happens, then those people are going to hurt other people. What happened when we were kids is we would get bullied in school Monday through Friday. Going into school on Monday morning was hell for a lot of us because it was like, oh my God, I got to go face my bullies. Recess was not always a fun time because you had to face your bullies, and then not necessarily there'd be a teacher around. But Friday, when school got out, you got to go home, and you didn't have to be around those bullies in an isolated situation. You didn't have to be around those bullies until Monday. Now what's happening is when you go home and you're on your phone, I don't even have my phone around me, but when you're on your phone, then through social media, through the DMs where parents don't see potentially if they're not, really looking at what their kids are doing and what their kids are taking in, they're getting bullied all the time, 24/7, at night, before they go to bed, when they wake up in the morning, before they go to school, during the weekends. And that's what the problem is. Same thing is happening with adulthood. So adults are mean, hurt people, right? So adults are mean and vindictive, and now they're a little bit more educated in the way that they're able to bully, and it may not even seem like bullying. And so we're getting that also through DMs, through there's to me a very it's not an innocent bullying. It's maybe not a directed bullying. Like, you're not going to bully a certain person, but there's a lot of bullying within people, generalizing groups of people and demeaning them. And so it's actually a lot more heinous now than when we were kids and it was just on the schoolyard, you know? So I want to be talking about bullying and tactics that we can be using to build a resilience within ourselves, that we're not affected as much by the bully. Okay. So I know that this podcast is not going to answer all of our questions, but I'm hoping that through, a little bit of conversation in the beginning of the podcast, and then through the conversation with you guys on the last part of the bulk of the podcast, I'm hoping that we're going to be able to start having some understandings, having some ideas, and really sharing these kind of things. So if you listen to this podcast episode, this one specifically, all the ones this month, and you think it's going to be able to help someone, please share it. And I don't care if you share it privately, that it's not on your social media. Just, email it to somebody or put it in the DMs. Like, I'm not looking at this to grow the Friend Leigh Show. I just want these messages out and these conversations to be had. So let us look at, I'm going to see if anybody is here yet. No, because we're not on a regular episode. That is okay. So let me go through. I did make some notes. Actually, I'm going to just tell you just a little baby story about why I was not here on Wednesday or Thursday when I rescheduled to Thursday. So we had a kitchen delivery. We're kitchen designers, for those of you that don't know. I'm a kitchen designer, and we were going to a delivery up in the Barrie area. And I knew that the weather was going to be bad. And so we went up Wednesday night for the delivery that was going to be Thursday morning, and just stay over in a hotel in Barrie. That way we could just drive in easily that morning. And so that was the smart thing to do. And then, so that's why I couldn't do it on Wednesday, because I knew that the internet was not going to be good and it wouldn't be a good show for you guys. There would be lags. I could have potentially just crapped out. That's happened to us before when we've been on vacation and I've tried to do this. So I've learned that you just reschedule. So I rescheduled to Thursday with all the intention. I should have been back in, my city by around 3:30, and that would have given me more than enough time to get back and do the show. But there was actually I think they ended up saying that it was a 15 to 20 car pile up on the 401. And we were actually the first car that was not impacted. So I don't know how we stopped the car. I'm going to start crying again. I'm going to have to deal with this with my therapist to figure out how to get through this thing. But anyway, we were the first car not to get impacted. And so we just watched the whole crash happen in front of us. And so anyway, we were on the road for a very, very long time, obviously. And so we ended up taking a hotel that night because the roads were just horrendous. It took me, when we got off the road, just to get into the city, that should have been 22 minutes away from the exit. It took over 2 hours to get there because the roads were so treacherous. So we stayed over. And so that's why I couldn't do the show last night. And it was kind of last minute to be able to tell you guys. So that is why I'm here today. But I just wanted to share that with you guys because I didn't want you to think that I'm just like, oh, I don't feel like it. Because I always feel like being here. I love this show and I love you guys so, so much. So let us get into it. And today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the first 2 pillars of the happy framework, health and affection for ourselves, and how that can help with bullying, at least with understanding like maybe how to build our inner strength to be able to help it. And then what I'm hoping also is by us doing that, if you're listening to this and you're the bully, you might not even know you're the bully, but I think you probably do. And you might even hate the fact that you're a bully, but you get into situations and you're like, why do I do that? Why am I so mean to that person? No judgment, but you get to change. You get to decide, you know what? I'm just going to be kind. I'm just going to stop being mean. And if it means that you're going to lose friends, because sometimes we're bullies because our friends are kind of like goading us on to be a bully, or it looks cool to be the bully. And we get that in corporate America. We get that in even in fundraising and charities, like you see it everywhere, that there becomes groups that like making fun of other people makes us feel more bonded to the people that are inside of our group. It's really sad, but it's just true. And everybody is just looking for connection. That's what everybody wants. They want connection. And so they think that's the way they're supposed to get it. And if they are getting some sort of a connection by being mean to other people, they don't care that they're hurting that other person because they're getting what they need. And we all do that. We're all very we've got self-interest that we want to be protecting ourselves, that we want to be helping ourselves. And so what we don't realize is that if we were kind to people, yeah, we might lose these couple people that, are still goading us on and our friends, but we will build such a richer community by being kind to people. So hopefully we'll be able to slowly change that. And that sounds like well, of course, like that totally makes sense. But sometimes when we're in it, we're looking for validation. And if we get the validation from the wrong people, but it's validation, that's all that we need, So how will health and self-affection affect these? Well, bullying has long-term health on our mental health. It includes things like anxiety, depression, even physical health issues like not being able to sleep, and then which can turn into health issues. The anxiety can turn into heart issues, all of this kind of thing. So there was actually, it's a stat, but it's not like a number stat, but victims of bullying are twice as likely to experience mental health challenges as an adult. So, and what I believe to be true, and this isn't part of the study, the study was the National Institute of Mental Health. What I believe to be true is that it's not the bullying that is creating the mental health epidemic that we're having. I don't think that's what it is. I think that it's the people that are being bullied, the victims of the bullying, don't have the tools to be able to look at that like hurt people, and that's on them. What they say is, last month we talked all about the 4 agreements. And in that, we were learning not to take anything personally because that's their own story they're projecting onto us. If we can learn that, then we could realize that bullying really is that like sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt me. If we don't know the tools to not let those names hurt us, that's how bullying hurts us. So we do have the capability of not becoming a statistic, not having mental health issues if we're able to get the tools to be able to help when somebody is bullying us. So some of the things that we can be doing is looking at the role of self-affection, like telling ourselves that we love ourselves. But like we've said a million times, the words don't matter as much as the actions. We've got to take actions to show ourselves that we love ourselves by keeping our promise to ourselves, by being kind with the words that we say. Are we the biggest bully in our life? Sometimes that's the truth of it, that we're actually a bigger bully to us. And that's why we accept other people bullying us, because it's like, well, no, I believe that to be true. Like, of course they would say that. It is true because I believe it. So we need to start building confidence and having that self-affection for ourselves. So then when people say things to us, like if I looked at you and was like, oh my God, you've got 3 heads. You wouldn't take offense to that. You wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I think I do. Do I have 3 heads? No, you wouldn't. That's not how bullies act. They're not going to tell you something that is obviously not true at all because that wouldn't hurt you. But when they call you ugly, if you believe you're ugly, now you're like, oh, well, of course they would say that because it's true, because I believe it to be true, then it becomes your truth, right? But if they said something like, oh, your skin is purple and green, you'd be like, haha, no, it's not. Like, you're weird. And then you would move on and it would not affect you. So that's where we have to start building that self-affection for ourselves. So then we have this rock solid confidence that it's like, they tell me that I'm stupid. I don't care. I know I'm not. If they tell me that I'm stupid when it comes to a certain subject, then I might even agree with them and be like, yeah, you know what? I have never studied elephant uh something, I don't know. Like, if it's a specific kind of thing that they're saying, oh, you're so dumb when it comes to, I don't know, I'm so bad at examples, but about um electrical, about being an electrician, you're so dumb. Yeah, if you weren't trained to be an electrician, you could be like, yeah, I have no idea how it works. I've never been trained to be an electrician. And you won't take offense to that, and you won't make that into a bigger global thing about I'm stupid. You would just be, yeah, okay, that's fine. But it's when they say that you're stupid and you believe you're stupid that it becomes the problem. They say you're ugly, you believe you're ugly, that becomes the problem. They call you ugly and you think, hey, you know what? I actually like the way that I look. Then it's, you might as well call me that I have 3 heads. Got it? So some of the things that we can do, and right now we're doing this in the Happy Holiday Challenge. Some of the things that we can do is we can write down things about ourselves every single day that we love about ourselves. We can practice meditation. We can be journaling. We can be exercising and moving. So then it helps our health, but exercising not only helps our physical health, it helps our mental health. And by keeping our promise to ourselves, if we say, okay, you know what, I'm going to go out for a walk today, when you actually go out for the walk, you're building your confidence because you kept your promise to yourself. And so exercising and those self-care activities can really help in building our own confidence. And that's what the name of the game is really building our own confidence. So then people can't be mean to us about anything because we won't believe any of it to be true. So let me see. I wrote a few. I'm actually wondering. Yeah. Okay. So, I wrote a few things in here. I just want to see, because I kind of like, I feel like I went through a lot of it right now without looking at my notes. So let's see here. Da, 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 da. Okay. So here were a few things. So talk to yourself like a friend. That was one of the things that I want to tell you guys. I think I already mentioned it, but are we our own bully? Or are we being kind to ourselves when we talk to ourselves? So saying actual affirmations, we've talked about this on the show, that affirmations unfortunately have a bad rap of, like, the Stuart Smalley, I think it was, and I can't remember exactly what he says, but like where he looks in the mirror and everybody makes fun of it. And they made fun of it on whether, I think it was Saturday Night Live or Mad TV or one of them. And unfortunately, it made that whole self-help kind of thing silly and goofy and like, oh, well, I'm not going to be that guy. But you know what? Be that guy, because sometimes we're not hearing the good things. I'm worthy. I'm beautiful. I'm smart. I'm strong. I'm resilient. We're not hearing those things from people around us. And so it becomes very easy that if we're hearing you're stupid, you're weak, you're whatever the case may be, you start believing those messages. So we need to be saying the messages to ourselves that we want to believe. So talking to ourselves like a friend, or when somebody bullies us, being able to talk to ourselves and self-coach ourselves that, like, that's not true, right? Because if a friend was being bullied in front of you, you would probably step up for that friend in front of that bully. And if you didn't, you would talk to your friend and say, don't listen to him. He's a liar. You're gorgeous. I love you. And you would tell her all of these things that you believe to be true about her. but we don't do that for ourselves. So that is one of the big things with self-affection, that we need to be our own best friend. We need to be that relationship that we're looking for. We can't rely on other people, because if it doesn't come, then we've really got issues, but we can be that person to ourselves. There's also a stat, the Clinical Psychology Review said that people who practice self-compassion have 78% lower levels of anxiety and depression. So it's really that like belief system that we really need to start working on. So another thing that we can be doing is creating a daily gratitude practice. So not just being grateful and being like, yeah, no, I'm grateful for my life. I'm grateful to be alive. I'll tell you, after that accident yesterday, oh my gosh, I'm looking at life so differently. Priorities are shifting. Things that weren't really important, but I was spending a lot of time on them. The car ride home today, I was having major conversations with my mom that like just trying to like fill it out and like figure it out for myself, that like there's a lot of things that I spend time that I think are important because I think I need to do them. And then I realized every moment that I'm spending on something that is not aligned with my purpose or with my what I need, it's taking a moment away from that. And so I need to be really curating my life in order to be able to fill it with things that are up-leveling my life and my happiness. And so a gratitude practice is really, really important, because we start looking the more we've talked about this on the show too, is the reticular activating system inside of your brain is that filtering system that it allows you not to be overwhelmed. When you go to Facebook and you look at the Facebook page, you know that you're focusing on looking for that post or looking for that friend or looking for that DM, right? So you're going into these spots to look for it. So what you focus on, you create. However, if you didn't have a reticular activating system in your brain and you looked at Facebook, you would be so overwhelmed, because there would be all of your contacts on the one side, all of the birthdays, all of the stories, all of the feed, and then you would have groups and you would have the dashboard and your friends and your marketplace and everything. And you would just be like, where do I even go? What do I even do? So because we know that to be true, that's the way that our brain works, is that we're constantly filtering what's important. Then now, if we're focusing on gratitude and things that we are happy about and that we want to create more of in our life, then we're going to find more to be happy about and to build more of in our life. The thing is that we focus on what we don't like, what's not working, the bully that's being mean to us, the stories that they're telling us, and we focus on that. And then we find more validation for that. We find more evidence that those things are true, because that's the way that our brain is working. So if we can practice a daily gratitude practice, that we're either writing it down or we're doing voice messages to ourselves, then we will find more things to be grateful for, because our brain will be like, oh my gosh, looking for things that you're happy about is important to you. Okay, well, how about this thing? How about this thing? And then you're just going to be like, oh my gosh, actually, my whole world is filled with great things. Yeah, there were a couple things that weren't great, but like, wow. And so that accident that happened last night, it was hard. But there was so much in it that, oh my gosh, like we were alive, that we were able to be in control of that car somehow. Somebody took the rein, and I was driving, but it wasn't me. I don't even know how we stopped it. But I was able to be grateful for the fact that we were able to not be in the wreck. I was very grateful that there was enough of an opening in behind us that we were able to move enough that the ambulances were able to get to the people. I'm hoping that I haven't actually looked to see if people passed, but I'm really hoping that they didn't. But we were able to see the ambulance come very quickly, that the paramedics were there very fast. All of these things I was grateful for. And it was fascinating because you were able to look at it, such a horrible situation, and your brain, because you've been training it to look for the good, all of these good things were coming out of it. And naturally, I also went to some of the bad, but then I was able to remind myself, if I'm going to focus on the bad right now, it's not going to get me through this. I'm just going to sit in it, and I need to get through this. And so constantly looking at that optimism or gratitude for what is good helps you clear out from the situation. But when we're looking at the negative, it keeps us stuck. And so that's why a gratitude practice is so important. So when you write down things that you appreciate about yourself, they can be as simple as, I made someone smile today. It doesn't have to be, I changed the world. It doesn't have to be, I got an A on my test, or I got that promotion. It can be as simple as, I'm trying my best. Today I tried my best. That felt really good. And be grateful that you tried your best, So there was a study. I love studies. I love numbers. I love, even though we know that they're also, curated, so like this one, it was by the Journal of Happiness Studies. Okay. So fine, but I still like them. So it was, gratitude practices increases happiness levels by 25% when done regularly. So when you're doing it on the daily or even on the weekly, but I think there's so much shit that's thrown at us. I think the daily is really important. It's kind of like, you could brush your teeth every week. Could you get away with not having any cavities? Probably, maybe. But if you brush your teeth every day, if you floss and brush your teeth every day, much better chance of you not having cavities. So if you practice gratitude weekly, could you get away from, not seeing all of the bad? Maybe. But if you did it every day, would you really grow that muscle of being able to find the good? Probably. So there's that. The other thing that I wanted to talk about too is forgiving yourself for mistakes. So when I'm talking about like being kind to ourselves, it's also in giving us grace when we make mistakes. We're always going to make mistakes. It's just going to happen. We're not perfect. We're not meant to be perfect. And so if we can forgive ourselves, talk to us like a friend. If a friend made a mistake and they were really feeling bad about it, and they were, talking poorly about themselves, you would tell them, you made a mistake. It's not that big of a deal. But what happens is, when people are bullying you, what they're doing is they're fueling that feeling of shame and failure, right? But if we can forgive ourselves for making the mistake, then when they, kind of are like, okay, you know what? I know that she feels bad about that mistake. I'm going to just throw that shame over at her. It's going to work out perfectly. It's going to lower her confidence. And then I'm just going to be able to control the whole situation. And somehow making her feel miserable will make me feel better. Like this is what bullying 101 is all about. It's really sad, but it's true. And so if they're trying to make you feel shame for failure, or trying to make you feel shame for whatever, if you, again, do not believe it because you've already forgiven yourself, you're like, you know what, you tried your best, you made a mistake, do better next time, that's fine. Then they're not going to be able to hurt you. And that whole sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. It is true if we don't allow those words to hurt us, and if we are putting the words that we want into our subconscious, right? And then the last thing that I wanted to talk about self-affection is celebrating our small wins. We're doing that in the happy community over at our circle. We're celebrating our small wins. They don't, again, have to be huge wins, but we do have to be celebrating our small wins because we have to be realizing that we're making forward momentum. The problem is that we're always looking at this big thing that we want to do. So, when you're in high school, you're like, okay, well then I want to make sure that I get the A in the class. And so when you maybe don't do as good on one of the tests, now because you're just focused on this as being the major goal, then every little thing that doesn't add up, you're not going to necessarily, but a lot of us berate ourselves that it's like, I'm not good enough. I'm never going to get here. But if you can just look at the small steps that are going to get you here, and you can focus on these and you can celebrate your wins along the way, you're going to build that momentum of being able to say, okay, you know what? I did pretty good on that test. And now, way to go, Leigh. Like, I'm so proud of you. You really studied hard. And now the next test, you now want to go into that and like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit better. Like, we always want to do a little bit better. There's nothing wrong with that. We're not looking for perfection, but we are looking for progress. And so that's another problem that I'm going to get to, is when people say, okay, well, I'm not looking for perfection. I can't be perfect. That doesn't mean reverting to not trying. You still want to go and try your best. You always want to give yourself 100% for wherever you are that day. Again, 4 agreements. We talked about it all last month on the show. So if we're always doing our best, then we can celebrate those little wins as we're going, even if it's not where we want to be up here. So a perfect example is the happy circle that we're doing. So we've got a community in place. We're doing a challenge. We're already on day 6 of the Happy Holiday Challenge. I am loving it. I'm actually doing the challenge with you guys as you're going, because I know it to be really helpful. And so I was really proud of it. And I'm very proud of everything, all of the videos that we're doing, all of the interaction that's happening. But it would be very easy for me to say, well, this isn't exactly where I want this to be, because I have this major vision of what this circle is going to be, and this happy just community, what it's going to look like. But we just started. So we're not going to be here. So I can't look at it like, oh my gosh, we're not even close to where I want us to be. Instead, I'm just celebrating that it's now, out in the public. That was a big deal for me. Even before I had one person in the community, even before anybody even knew about it, the moment that I put it out there, I celebrated it. I celebrated with my parents. I celebrated with my sister and with Mike. I was so proud of myself. I celebrated with my coach. I was so proud of myself that I finally put it out into the world. But I didn't get any validation from anybody because nobody was inside of that community yet. But I celebrated it because I'm doing my best and I know that this is something that I want. So every time that I've gotten, new people joining us, I'm celebrating that. I'm so excited about sharing this framework and sharing this community with the world, that it's just one person at a time. It's one small victory at a time. So that's what we need to do. We need to be looking at our life of looking at all of our small wins. The more that we celebrate all the small wins, we realize that we have a lot to celebrate. And then with that reticular activating system, just like with the gratitude, we're going to find more things to celebrate. We're going to find more little victories throughout our day. We're going to be like, oh my gosh, I want to celebrate that. Look at that. I did amazing. Or, oh my gosh, look, I made that person smile. That was pretty cool. Oh my gosh. So all of these little things, the reticular activating system inside of your brain is so magical if we can prime it to be looking for the things that we actually want instead of the things that we don't want. And so bullies will have no chance of bullying us and it sticking or us hurting us or us being part of that statistic that we're going to have major mental health issues in the long run. That was, if you're bullied as a child, you've got, I can't remember if it was 2 times the chance of having depression and anxiety as an adult. But it's still the same thing, that like, even if you're right now in your 30s and feeling bullied, you're going to have, mental health issues going forward in your 35, 40, 45, 50, if you believe what they're saying to be true. But it's all garbage, because hurt people hurt people. And so we need to just look at everybody with love and just realize, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. You're calling me stupid. Oh, gosh, you must not feel really good about yourself. Somebody hurt you. Somebody called you stupid. And you can feel bad about that. And then just let them say whatever they need to say. Let it get off their chest. That's fine. But if it doesn't affect you, what fun is that for the bully, right? They want to see you sad. They want to see you cry. They want to see you have the pain that they have. And so if you're not showing them that you have the pain that they have, there's a very good chance, a very good probability that they're going to move on to somebody else. And if we can all, as a community, build that resilience, then the bullying is going to naturally start dissipating. Because then the people that are hurt are going to say, hey, you know what? I want to be as happy as those people are. I need to figure out a way to do that because obviously what I'm doing is not working. Being mean to that person is not working. And so we need to just build ourselves. We got to build our resilience. We've got to build our strength. We got to build our friendship with ourselves. And that's also with the health portion of it, because those are the two pillars that we want to talk about tonight. With the health portion of it, the more that we can take care of our own health is also a way of us telling ourselves and showing ourselves that we love ourselves. So if we're eating nourishing food, so then we can have the energy, it's telling us that, you know what, I love you enough that I want you to be around for a very long time, right? So eating properly, drinking our water or electrolytes or whatever we're drinking, and making sure that we're hydrated, making sure that we're getting enough sleep. Even if you're having a hard time sleeping, having closed eye time that you can just rest your body, or doing NSDR, doing non-sleep deep rest, even just for 10 minutes, you can get it for free online. Doing those kinds of things to help our body is telling our body, I love you. I want you to be feeling as good as I feel about you. And so doing all of these things for our health will end up helping our love for ourselves, which then kind of puts armor on us for the bullies, because it's, you can't hurt me. You can't touch me. If I love myself so much, there's nothing you can tell me that I'm going to believe if it's negative. It's going to be just like you're telling me that I have 3 heads. There's no way I'm going to believe it, because I know when I look in the mirror, I've got one. And so it'll be the same thing with the smarts, with the ugliness, with the whatever they're throwing at you. It's just not true because you don't see it to be true. It's only when you see what they're saying to be true that it hurts. And so we get to create our own truth. And that is through our health. It's through our self-affection, how we show ourselves that we love ourselves. And then in future, like next week, the week after, we're going to go through the rest of the pillars of the happy framework and see how those can help us with building resilience for bullying and for the bullying epidemic. So I wanted to see if there's anybody here. This may be a very short episode because it doesn't look like anybody was able to watch this live, which is a bummer for me. I'm like so sad right now. This is, I hate it, but that's okay. We'll be back next week. And so it's a nice short episode. And if you're watching this in the replay and you're watching it like as the video, so if you're watching it on Facebook or YouTube or Twitch, well, not Twitch, because I still don't know how to find the comments on Twitch. But if you're watching this on YouTube or Facebook, please comment as if you're watching it live. I guess I should have told you that in the very beginning. And I will reply to the comments. You won't be a part of the show, but if you come back next week, Wednesday at 7:30 Eastern, 6:30 Central, or whatever the equivalent is for you, you can become a part of the show. Next week, we're going to be talking about the bullying epidemic and how our purpose plays a factor in this. And so I think it's going to be a really good conversation. And who knows, we may even kind of backtrack into what we talked about today about health and affection for ourselves, and kind of couple that in there, because we will have more of you guys that are listening and sharing. But if you are listening to this, and you're listening to this in the audio version, please feel free to email me and let me know your experience. Let me know what you thought about what we talked about today, what resonated, what didn't resonate, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, because that's where these conversations really need to be had, and we can learn from each other. So if you want to email me, it's the Friend Leigh, Leigh, show @gmail.com. Okay, so I love you guys so much. I guess we're going to wrap up there. I will see you guys next week. And in the meantime, make it a happy and healthy week. I love you. Bye.